weekend is the Australian National Scrabble Championships, and I've invited in a couple of decent players for a bit of a game this morning. We've got 10-time Australian champion John Holgate coming to join us, and also current Australian champion Edward Okulicz. So we're going to see if we can score with these boys right throughout the morning, fellas. Are you ready to go?
Off we go.
All right. Yeah. Okay, John Holgate, 10 times national,
actually.
8 times champion. Mate, what makes a good Scrabble player?
You've got to be a wordaholic, that helps, right? And be able to work out anagrams and understand the strategy of the game. So there's a whole, but having a good vocabulary helps.
Okay, great. Well, been in the television industry for a while now, so I know a lot of four-letter words, so let's get on with it, shall we? And we'll be back right throughout the morning as I take on the current national champion and 8 times national champion in Scrabble.
Wordaholics, that's a great word. Is that, can you use that word on the Scrabble? On the Scrabble board?
No, I made
Wordaholic?
it up just then.
Ah.
And I'll be making up a few this morning myself, don't you worry about that.
Note to self, look up anagrams. Stevie Jacobs, what's happening with the weather around the place, mate, and how are you going in the Scrabble?
Mate, I'm still trying to get enough letters to make up my favourite word, Maguire. But these fellas, who are two of Australia's greatest wordsmiths, are making me look like an absolute twit, and I don't even know how to spell that. We're going to show you. This is a real game of Scrabble going on. We've got John Holgate, who's 8 times national champion, and Edward Okulicz, who is the current Australian champion in Scrabble. The Australian Championships are running this weekend. You won't believe some of the words that they've come up with, and they're absolutely real. This weekend, we are in the middle of a real game here between John and Edward. Now, just have a look at some of these words that they've come up with. I've never even heard of them. There are 2 words here that I basically have heard of, jog and in. Now, what does this mean, isoeats?
An isoeats is a plant. It's the quillwort plant.
Of course it is. And what about yex and dex?
A yex is an old word for a hiccup, and dex is short for dexedrine.
Now, these are real words, aren't they?
True.
So you can actually use abbreviations, can you?
If they're in a dictionary, yeah.
Right. What about, what's a red bird?
Over to you.
It's no one would blanch at the word bluebird, and a red bird is just like a bluebird, but red.
So it's actually a red bird. All right. And of course, over here you have this word that I've never even heard of, which is
A chalaza. It's part of a bird's egg.
yes, one of the 2 sacs of albumin inside a bird's egg. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, done a little bit of research on that. These guys are absolutely incredible. Now, is he a potential world champion?
I think so, yes. Later this year, you'll find out.
25 years old. We'll continue the game. Coming up right throughout the morning, live on the Today Show, Carl and Kelly. National Scrabble Championships coming up this weekend. Carl, I'm having a game, or watching a game, between 2 of our great players at the moment. We've got John and Edward. John is an 8-time national champion. Edward is #1 ranked in the country at the moment. It's incredible the sort of words that they actually use on the board here, and it's amazing how many words you have in your vocabulary. We'll find out how many you have. An average person, which I consider myself, you have about 6,000 words in your vocabulary. Now, if you're a graduate, you can increase that to 12,000. An English professor, 20,000. Shakespeare had 30,000 in his vocabulary, many of which he made up himself. A club Scrabble player, around 50,000. And a world champion would have 120,000 words in their vocabulary. Now, you guys have been making up words left, right and centre, which I would think are not real, like wit. But you can use a lot of Shakespearean terms in Scrabble, can't you?
Yeah, well, we borrow them from Shakespeare.
Right, I understand the last half of that, so I guess that makes me a half-wit, so I get that bit. Anyway, now listen, what's the highest score that you boys have got in a game of Scrabble?
I've had a 728 in a tournament a few years back now.
And Edward?
My highest is 674.
What about for a single word? Obviously, it would be on a triple.
I got 194 a couple of years ago for excision across 2 triple word scores.
Right, which means?
Well, something you cut out of something.
Medical word.
A medical word.
Yes.
And your favourite word?
Furbelow.
Furbelow.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That's a flounce on a dress. It's a word that describes a dress.
All right, fantastic. Well, we've just had one game here. 549 for Edward, plays 294. Fairly high-scoring game. I'm going to get myself involved now, and we'll have a 3-way game of Scrabble. Can you actually play 3 people?
You can, but not in tournaments.
Right, okay. All right, we'll get into it. We'll be back in half an hour. See what we can do on the Scrabble board.
And Stevie Jacobs, I have been watching your progress over there. Your vocabulary has doubled this morning.
Does that mean it's twice as good?
Yes.
These guys make Scrabble hip. Now, we're starting a new game. We've got John and Edward over here. Now, just to give you an idea of how quick these guys are, this is my little board here. These are the 7 letters that I picked up. Now, these boys had a look at it, and they've established around about over 10 7 7-letter words just out of that. See if you can come up with one. How do you come up with a 7-letter word out of that?
How many you want to know?
You guys are so quick. Like, it took you like a few seconds to say there are at least over 10 7-letter words. What's the trick to rearranging the tiles? And do you have to have a blank piece to help to get a 7-letter word?
Makes it easier, yeah. But moving prefixes is the main thing. So you got re.
Yep.
You put it here, you got re, and then you suddenly see B-A-T-E, rebated, or debater. So you're using prefixes to get to the quickly the answer. So Edward could tell you 10 words off the top of his head just by looking at it. So.
Bring it on.
Berated as well, rebated, tabered, aborted, borated, taberds, dabster, redbait, tribade and bratted.
Of course.
Legal words.
Of course, yeah. Now, what are some of your favourite words?
One of my favourites that I've been trying to get down for about 5 years now after first came across it is funk hole, which is like a dugout.
And that's a real word.
Yeah.
Now, I tried to actually trick the guys earlier with a word you should know that Cameron actually looked up for me on the internet, which is zizavar. Now, you need 2 Y's, 2 blanks, and 1 Z, and you guys knew it straight off the top of your head. It is?
A weevil.
A type of weevil.
Tropical weevil.
All right, we're going to find out about some of the stars who like to play Scrabble and also about some of the eccentric people who like to play Scrabble as well. That's all coming up in the next half hour. We'll see you soon, guys.
All right, thank you, Steve. The only word that I got out of that little list there, if you have a closer look at it, and I had to really focus here because it takes me a while to workshop these sort of words, is T-A-B.
Very good.
I tell you what I got. This is basically all I got out of it. Maybe this is the television coming out of me, but I got Bert.
Or what about
about it.
Berted? Fantastic, Stevie.
Berted.
Great.
There we go. And the A? Oh, you don't need it.
We'll just leave them to it.
Obviously, a lot of great sport around the country, as we heard from Cameron, and it continues this weekend with the Australian National Scrabble Championships. I'm playing this morning with John Holgate and Edward Okulicz, who are 2 of our best players, and we're coming up with some fantastic words here this morning. We're going to have a last look at the weather and then find out a little bit more about the game of Scrabble. Here's the game here this morning. I'm getting a little bit of help from my friends this morning, but fellas, there are a few famous people who like to play Scrabble.
Quite a few, yeah. In the local front, there's Casey Chambers. He's a keen player, and John Saffron. He's an addict apparently, and the international front, there's Linda Evangelista. The late Robert Palmer was quite a keen player.
And our very own Kylie Minogue likes to play with Robbie Williams.
I've heard, and she plays Scrabble too, I think.
You go for it, boys. And also just a few eccentric people. I mean, you call them eccentric, you call them barking mad that like to play Scrabble. Tell us a few of the quirky things that have happened in the game.
I played an Irish Scrabble champion once, and he assured me that in Ireland they play with 100 blanks.
And the woman who was buried with
The Canadian woman that had her gravestone in the form of a Scrabble board, her friends could come along to the graveyard and have a game later on.
Right, and one irate player who swallowed his cue.
He swallowed the cue, yes, yeah.
Not happy with his word?
No, he didn't like it. He was, as they say, stuck with the cue, basically.
All right, well, we've missed a few cues and we're a little bit over cue, but if you want to find out more about the national championships, check out the website at scrabble.org.au. Carl and Kelly, it's time for us to GA. I don't have an O.